Now, Titans. Let's talk about these things, Danny. What do you know about these absolute monsters of machines?
I understand that Titans are ancient machines from time long since past. They take many to run and must be restricted.
Yeah, that's all true, though you leave out a lot of stuff. Let's talk about their story first, since gameplay's perspective they don't get much. Titans are absolutely massive. The smallest Titans are bigger than your standard knight, and you still have a lot of pieces that require many people to function. Both Titans and Knights actually are sub-factions of Adeptus Mechanicus, though they have more autonomy than the Admechs do, and a lot more uses. Originally, the term was essentially just for big-ass walkers, often mixing Knights into the mix, but in more recent times, they are their own actual individual classification. Imperial Titans, sometimes called God Engines or God Machines by the Machine Cult, are essentially cities on the shoulders of robots. I don't really understand why they often have cities, towers, churches, and such on their backs. They move like men, so they can't be livable cities, though it may be because those who run the Titans need to eat, sleep, and live. The Titans were made for many different things, like Knights originally, though the Imperium refers to War Titans and combat robotic walkers as true Titans, though some were designed for migrations or even environmental reshaping. Now, the Imperium aren't the only ones with Titans, but Xenosmechs have been renamed officially. Eldar have their Phantoms, while Orcs have their Gargants. Tau probably have them too, though they're Tau, and they like Gundams. Now, Titans come in various statues. Here's an image I found on Reddit of some of the Titans and their sizes, though I've heard of Titans that are actually much larger, so I don't think this is a complete list. Rapier Scout Titans are considered the smallest, being used to essentially go in, blast, and get out, though they were primarily used during the Great Crusade before being nearly decimated during the Horus Heresy. Warhound Scout Titans are the runny boys of the Warhound class of Titans, often being used to flank enemies, while bigger Titans are the distraction. They are very often used by Chaos Legions because they're old as dirt and easy to snag and not needing much to run them. Then we've got the Dire Wolf class of Heavy Scout Titans, which are essentially your Terminator version of the Warhound class, meant to take more hits and take more names. They're often strapped with fire from the gods, using laser weapons and mega bolters. Though, if a 75 caliber is a bolt gun, are mega bolters a larger caliber or just faster fire rate? Reavers are the next class of Titan, being the smallest of the battle class of Titan. They can take more than a Warhound, but also give a lot more punishment. They do have a major flaw in how their weapons and power supplies are placed, though. It makes flanking them very deadly for such machines. The wiki then names a bunch of battle class Titans that are no longer in the setting for a very good reason. Titans have free will. The Komodo, Punisher, Executor, Apocalypse, Carnivore, and Mirage class Titans are all meant for different jobs and doing different things. Essentially like how Knights work, where different weapons will make them a different specific type of machine. Now we get to the ones that are actually available on both lore standard and a table standard. The Warbringer Nemesis Titans are essentially guns with guns on their guns. They got 2 cannons for arms, 2 cannons on their shoulders, and a big fuck-off cannon on their back. Warlord Titans are the biggest of the boys, and in both situations, both table and lore-wise, you can only get these supermassive models from Forge World's order. One of these things will cost you 3,500 points to put on a table, so you will not be using these in a standard game. They are monsters to use. Then we got the War Master class of Titan. They're even bigger, and yet you can use 2 laser guns, a bunch of missile launchers mounted on their shoulders. These things are absolutely huge and impossible to use on a table. Then we've got the Emperor class of Titans, broken into Imperator and Warmonger class, depending on their designs. Imperators are meant for essentially assault platforms when there's a city amount of guns just unloading into an individual. If you want one of these, you'll need to have more money than I know what to do with. A Warmonger class is meant to essentially be a long-range sniper unit for another Titan to keep at a safe distance. Then we get into the last class of Titan that needs no pilot. These are considered to be extremely dangerous, and when they're found, often had citizens on just living them. The Castigator class of Titans are thought to be the legitimate dad of other Titans, and often mistook it for a mountain at first. Upon realizing it had free will, it just didn't want to be bothered. The Imperium decided these big-ass things were just way too dangerous to be kept alive. And they barely won that fight, the Imperium getting their asses handed to them and handing asses to it. Black Legion tried to find these things and put demons into them, and it worked! Unfortunately for the ruinous powers, it ignored them and went about its business. No, seriously. It took a 1.5 tons of dudes just to convince the Titan that it had a demon inside of it. And they still just didn't bother. Honestly, these Titans are hilarious to me. The Castigators are basically go around while people say, "Hey, you've got possession of a demon!" I don't care. But that doesn't make any sense. Tough shit. Now, there are 2 different Titan Legions, the Imperial and the Chaos. Both have 4 units that are 1 model each. They're essentially the same models, but the Chaos versions have some Chaos trim and have fun painting that bitch. They've both got 3 abilities, which are essentially the same things, but let's get into them. Towering example is both of them. Essentially, it lets you throw out the detachment rules and lets you use a Titan as your warlord. This will honestly never come up. Titanic support is also both versions and does the exact same thing, but in different flavors. You can bring a Titan if all units are either Chaos or Imperium keywords, depending on the Titan itself. And both also have Titanic Traitorous, which essentially allows you to throw out that other rule because you can just proxy 1 Titan for the other army. So, its keywords don't matter with the Titans. Titans have a bunch of weapons. A lot less than Knights do, but still a lot. Probably because there's only 4 Titans, but unless you know a guy who got one cheap, have a big 3D printer, or is loaded to sin, you ain't gonna get one of these really. And if you do, you're unlikely to ever bring one to a table. These things are cool, but really impractical, given the Reaver is the cheapest point value, and it's still gonna be at least 2/3 of your army. But that's Titans! Cool as fuck, but worthless to sin. Now, Danny, we need to talk about your codex next week. But for now, shove off.